Howdy folks, today I'm going to show you how to use segues to pass data between view controllers in Swift using Xcode. So the first thing we're doing here is just setting up a couple of view controllers. I've got an initial view controller, which is a subclass of the UI view controller. And we're creating a file for that, and I'll also create one for our new view controller. Our initial view controller is going to be I'll refer to it as a VC. It's going to be the VC that has the data, and the new VC is going to be the one that we're passing our data to. Now we're going to head over to our storyboard and go into the identity inspector of each of our view controllers, which I've labeled on the story initial and new, and we're going to go to the custom class section and change the class to their respective classes based on those class files. I've also pre-set up these view controllers with a couple of elements. So we've got a label right here that we're just going to leave blank for now. We've got a back button. We have a couple of buttons over here in order to start the segues to go from one VC to the other, and we have a text field to get the user input. In order to set up the segue, what you're going to want to do is control drag from the element that you want to have initialize a segue, such as the button, and choose an action segue. In this case, we'll select the show option, but you can play around with the others to kind of see the differences and how each of them work. But what the show option is going to do, if we select that, it's going to create this partial pop-up screen that you've probably seen in apps before. And what's going to happen is when you click on the blue button, it brings up the new page. And first off, you can see that you can't get back from it, but it also allows us to slide down. If we want to just show it as a full screen, what we can do is come into the identity inspector of the segue itself, go to kind, and instead of choose, select, or show, select present modally, and under presentation, select full screen. And then you'll just get a regular full screen view. And as you can see, there it is. Back button still doesn't work, and we can't slide down anymore. Let's set up the red background button to kind of do the same thing here. And our goal here is going to be to make it so that the blue background is going to create a blue background on the new view controller, and the red will create a red background on the view controller, and both of them will pass whatever's in that input text field on the initial view controller. And then the next thing we're going to do, you should probably know how to do this already, is just set up some IB outlets and IB actions. Well, actually, probably just IB outlets. That way we can, start putting some code to these pages. So first we'll get that text field on here. If you don't know, you just do the same thing. You control drag from the element on your view controller to the code. Oops, that was weird. Control drag from this label, this empty label, which is going to display the user input, and throw that onto the new VC class file. That way we can access that data as well. We're also going to create a variable that's going to be a string called user input, and it's going to be an optional. We'll also create a background color of type UI color, and we'll force unwrap that, and we can feel safe doing that because both of the buttons that we use to access this page are going to send that data in. And then what we're going to do here is basically just say, set the background color of our view to whatever that background color is that we declared above, and then we'll access the label, that display input label text field, or at least the text there, and just set it equal to whatever that string is that's stored in user input. And then over here in the initial VC class, it's where all the real magic is going to happen. So we don't really need to worry about the view did a load function here, but what we are going to do is override this function called prepare for sender. And so basically what we're looking at here is a function with two parameters. The prepare function itself is going to be called just before a segue is performed. And this is how we're going to pass the data between view controllers, and also how we're going to configure the destination view controller before we display it. The first parameter is for Segue, and it's a UI storyboard segue. It basically just contains the information about the segue that's being performed. So that's that line that we created when we control dragged from the UI storyboard. And then the sender is going to be basically referring to whatever object it was that triggered the segue. So if we clicked on the blue back button, it's going to contain that object. First, we're going to declare a destination constant, which is just going to refer to the next storyboard. And so we'll say, okay, well, if the destination of that segue is the new view controller, then we're going to do everything that follows. And then you can use this to access different storyboards. So say that we had control clicked a different button to segue into a different storyboard, then we would say if let destination equals segue dot destination as whatever that other, the class of that other new view controller is, then do this other set of information. So you can do this multiple times in order to kind of react to going to different segues. Now what we can do, which is where everything really comes together, is actually access the user input on that destination. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. So first off, this input text field dot text, we're accessing the variable or the string that's stored in this text field that we have on the initial view controller. So whatever the user types in there, it's going to be accessed with that line of code. And then when we're setting this destination to be the new view controller, we're accessing a property within that view controller. We can do destination dot to access the user input property, and then set the value of that user input property using the input text field dot text, which is super cool. And kind of where all of this passing data comes from. Now we're going to differentiate between those two identifiers that we set earlier. I didn't really make that too explicit, so I'll go back and show you in just a sec. But that segue object is going to contain an identifier that you set on the storyboard, and you can check what that is and then do different things based on that. So in this case, we'll access the background color property of the destination and set it to dot blue if the identifier is blue, and we'll set it to dot red if it's red. And so let's see, if we go to our storyboard and we click on these segues, we can see that the identifier of this first segue is blue and of the second is red, corresponding to the associated buttons. Then we can see this is accessing that background color variable or property of the new VC, like we did before, and you can kind of see it propagating through to actually setting that background color of this view controller. So if we go ahead and run it, let it load for a sec, you can see if you click on the blue background, hey, look at that, we got a blue background. Now we can't use that back button yet because we haven't set that up. So I'll show you how to set that up in just a second. Well, actually right now, I'll show you how to set it up. The first way you can do this is just like we did before, create a segue using control, drag, click from the back button to our initial view controller, set it to the transition that we want, and then as you can see, it's working. We can flip back and forth, get the red background, get the blue background, and then we can go back. But the problem here is that, as you can see, you keep layering new pages on top of each other. So you're not actually getting, putting the new VC away and re-accessing that initial view controller. What you're actually doing is loading a new initial view controller on top of this new VC, and then that clouds up your memory because you're loading page on top of page on top of page. So instead, we want to do is what I'm doing now is create an unwind segue. What an unwind segue is going to do is it's actually going to get rid of this page that the back button's on. So you can really just kind of copy and paste this command, and you actually want to put the unwind segue on that initial view controller, the view controller that you want to go back to, not the view controller that you're going back from, if that makes sense. Then you're going to go to this back button, obviously delete that original segue, and what you're going to want to do is control drag from that back button to this third little orange square over here and select that unwind segue. And you can give this a name in case you have multiple unwind segues on different view controllers. And then if we run this, we can put in some user input, say, hello, Mr. Poopy Butthole. And then choose, say we want a blue background. There's our text coming up, our new VC, and now we can click back and go back to this original page. One more thing I'm going to show you is that we can also, well, first off, yeah, let's extend that out a bit, but we can also send information back. So I'll show you that to you in a second. If we go back into our initial VC, where I put stuff, this is where we could, send information back from that new VC, or we could update this view controller based on what happened on that other VC. So let's say when that unwind segue happens, we change our initial view controller background to green. There you go, it's green. Look at us go. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a good one.